Hey, you've also raised today a significant issue that Harley Reid, who's long been touted as the number one draft pick in this upcoming draft, has, and to use your words, essentially told West Coast he doesn't want to be drafted there.
Yeah, so they were. That is half a sentence of a 5-minute conversation I had on a podcast.
Take that out of context. That's
been turned into. It's ironic that a journalist is talking about this.
That's what I'm saying.
That's been turned into a clickbait story on other mediums.
But I know you well enough. You wouldn't be saying that unless you believe that to be the case.
Yeah.
So.
Look, I've had a lot of people reach out to me today that are well connected with Harley. It sounds like the story has really upset him, which I can only understand. The human in me is devastated that anything I say or do could impact an 18-year-old and his day or his week. But he's also going to be the number one pick. So, you know, he will get used to quickly being talked about. I don't think there have been direct conversations had between his management and West Coast, but there is a belief within other clubs, there's a belief within people around Harley that maybe there's a preference for him there not to be taken by the West Coast Eagles. Now, he is one of 50 players in the last 10 years that I could go through that have told clubs either directly, told their managers to tell clubs, told their parents to tell clubs, hey, if it's okay, I wouldn't mind staying where I am. Some of them get listened to, others don't, and it doesn't matter. Ben King didn't want to go to the Gold Coast Suns. He now loves it there.
Cerra didn't want to go to Freo.
Cerra didn't want to go to Freo. Ultimately, he's come back, but he spent 4 years there. Lots of players, Jimmy, didn't want to go to... Chad Wingard told GWS in 2011, don't draft me. They had the first 5 picks in the draft. He ended up being drafted to his home state and plays in Victoria anyway. So I was trying to have an adult conversation around the sort of conversations that happen at this time of the year as we go into the draft. It's turned into a clickbait story, which people just have to...
But in your opinion, though, in an ideal world, he wants to stay in Melbourne. Is just...
I think so. Yeah. But having said that, if he gets called out by West Coast at pick one, he will happily go there. Because I've never met him. From the sounds of things, he's an extremely professional young man. But
isn't the extension off the back of this is the whole discussion around whether West Coast should keep the first pick?
Absolutely.
Because if they trade out of that first...
But there's also a tampering with the draft issue, which has never been applied by the AFL. But there's ways around it. Yeah.
But Sam's touched on it. I've heard these conversations directly with young players over the last 5 or 6 years that almost in tears, I can't leave home.
Yeah, and look, while we're talking about these issues, what North Melbourne gets by way of concession, it will be pitched for again. They got a form of concession last year where they had to use picks given to them to trade players in. Darcy Tucker and Griffin Logue were 2 of them. They'll pitch for it again. Look, I expect the system, the magical system the AFL works under, the manipulable system with the free agency, if Ben McKay chooses to go, that there will be a contract offered to him that will be compelling enough for everyone to be happy that they get the pick immediately after their pick in the draft. So pick 2 by way of ladder, pick 3 by way of draft.
Sorry, Damo, I want to be really specific about this. You think that the secret herbs and spices that the AFL won't tell us what's in them will eventually manipulate an outcome?
If Ben McKay chooses to go...
That will give them picks 2 and 3 in the draft.
I'd be staggered if they didn't get a number.
They have to show him the door then on that.
Yeah, well, I mean...
They are anyway, Lordy.
And to this point, I mean, Joe Danaher was wooed by the Brisbane Lions as a free agent who immediately, within the first few months of his career there, changed the contract that was ultimately giving the compensation to Essendon as a first-round pick. And we saw James Frawley get a first-round pick for Melbourne leaving...
That was the exact same scenario. They ended up, I think, with picks 2 and 3, and it was Brayshaw and Petrarca.
Correct.
Which has gone on to help.
And the other one just on that is there's a boy, Riley Sanders, who just won the medal, the Lark medal, for the best through the whole series in the championships. He's from Tasmania. He's been boarding at Melbourne Grammar the last two years. He's also, I didn't know that, he's got Indigenous heritage. So there's now looking at whether he can
through
be...
an academy that North has got in Tassie,
So now they're looking at whether he will be in the draft pool or whether he can go to North Melbourne. So there's a lot of clubs, I'm sure, wouldn't be happy if that also falls North Melbourne's way.
Plenty